listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Oh, hi.
Hello.
We're back in person together.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. We're both recovered from our colds.
Wait, I don't think they knew I got a cold. Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah,
we said that last week.
Last week.
Yeah, that's true.
So we can both breathe through our noses now.
Mostly.
It's a win.
Mostly. I'm good. This is also the first episode we're recording since the update episode came out.
Yeah.
So last week, I don't know when we recorded that, but it was before we actually released our update. Hey, we're back episode. So I just want to thank all of you guys who expressed such excitement that we're back. Also, all of you who emailed me saying, oh my God, you're in a relationship. Like, so many people texted and emailed me. It was hilarious. I know this was news, and I understand your excitement and I appreciate it. And also the couple of you who said, I knew it was coming back. I felt it the day before.
I loved that.
They magically, intuitively picked up on the fact that it was coming back.
We were clearly energetically synced up with some of you.
And that doesn't surprise me at all.
And thank you to those of you who reached out and expressed your excitement for my new business. It's really exciting to me when I'm like, oh, this is a great idea that I'm excited about. And then many of you reached out to me and were like, oh my gosh, what a great idea. So I really appreciate that. That's very motivating and inspiring.
And you have sent out quite a lot of your spice blends.
I have. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, if you didn't listen to our first episode that we put out when we came back after our long hiatus
2 or 3 weeks ago now.
In the meantime, since we started the hiatus and we picked back up on the podcast, I started a second business in addition to Clarity on Fire, not in place of, but I am doing a coffee business for really for anybody who wants a really clean decaf or half calf, since most decaf coffee is filled with all kind of terrible, gross chemicals, but particularly women who are looking for supporting their fertility, or if you're pregnant or want to become pregnant and you want a really clean decaf because you can't have caffeine, that's who I'm really targeting with this. And I'm putting out a free spice blend that's particularly meant to support fertility. So it's 6 spices that you can add to your coffee, or I like to add it to overnight oats or smoothies, like anything that you would like a little bit of a cinnamony type spicy blend on top of. And I'm giving out 100 for free. I've already sent out a lot. I don't know exactly what number I'm at, but I'm guessing by the time this comes out, I may have 25 more. Somewhere maybe in that range. So if you want a completely free sample,
and you live in the United States.
Yeah, you got to live in the United States because otherwise shipping is insane. And I'm not even charging you for shipping. Truly, I just want you to try it because this is the newest product I want to put out, and I want to get some people to try it, and I want to
get your feedback.
I'd love to hear your feedback, so that I'm giving out a decent, I think a pretty generous size sample completely free. So if you go to White Stork Coffee, that's the name of the business, is White Stork Coffee, whitestorkcoffee.com. There's a little pop-up that'll come up that you can go to the form and request your free sample. There's also a tab that says free fertility spice blend. So either of those two places you can go and get a completely free sample.
Okay. You forgot mine. You were supposed to bring me one, and I didn't.
I know. I meant to bring one. I haven't seen her in weeks, and I was like, I'm going to bring you one.
Nope.
And then my other update is that I got another dog. I did get a puppy. So now I have 3 dogs because Georgia is miraculously still with us.
Still hanging in there.
I'm so happy that she's hanging in there. I think it's the snow. I think she's truly living just to play in the snow right now.
Yeah.
And I want her to have that joy. So I have 3 dogs right now. So my morning was a little crazy. So I forgot to bring you Spice Blend.
She now has what is he, like 7 or 8 months old?
Yeah, he's about 7-month-old golden retriever puppy. And he is, he's a handful, but he's just a giant sweetheart. Like truly just, he lives to please. And also to play.
His name is Rhett.
Rhett.
Like Rhett Butler, like Gone with the Wind, like Scarlett O'Hara.
So we do definitely need a photo op of Rhett and Scarlett together.
Do. That's why. So like, that's why I named Scarlett Scarlett is like 12 years ago. And I was like, I'm getting a dog. You were like, well, if I ever got a dog, I want a boy dog, big boy dog, and I want to name him Rhett. And I was like, wait, but Scarlett's like the best. That's a great name. And that's why I named Scarlett Scarlett. So here we go. Full circle.
So we're there. We finally, it took
12 years. Full circle.
And I got my boy dog named Rhett.
Anyway, so you said you wanted him to be a black lab, and that really would have made more sense.
It would have.
Because of the coloring, but whatever.
I know. You know? And then I got onto a golden retriever kick recently, and so that's where I landed. But yeah, he's a little too blonde to truly be a Rhett Butler character, but
all right.
He's got the charming spirit. So
okay. Rhett Butler was not eager to please anybody.
No, that's true. But he did win over all the ladies.
That's
his
true.
Charm.
Absolutely.
And this guy's very handsome. Everybody who I show a picture to is like, that dog is handsome. Like not even just he's cute. He's a stunner.
Well,
so
as is Scarlett. So
yes, they're
everyone
very
stops and remarks on how attractive she is still to this day in her old age.
They do fit their characters in that way.
Okay. Okay. So there's some updates. And you know what we haven't gotten? I'm just going to say this. We haven't gotten in a while because we were gone for so long. Is any ratings and reviews?
Oh, please.
So
I love those.
If you haven't, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I don't even think you can leave reviews on Spotify. But wherever you're listening, if you are able to leave a rating and a review, we would be so grateful because it lets us know that you're enjoying it. And also, algorithmically, I think it helps other people find us. So
yes, we would appreciate it.
Drop us some love.
Future listeners would appreciate you helping them discover us.
I'm sure they would. I'm speak for them right now and say they would love that. Why aren't you helping them? Okay, so we are back with the first Dear Krachel in quite some time, since June of last year. This is, for those of you who are maybe newer to the podcast, this is our monthly advice column, which is really a lifelong dream of mine come true, that I get to have an advice column.
Way back in college, you wanted to have an advice column.
Always wanted to have an advice column. Because
when we didn't have any good advice to give anyone because we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
You know what? I thought I had good advice then, and I think I have good advice now.
I think I have much better advice now.
I would hazard a guess that it is better now than it was then, but I was just as confident.
Sure.
So
that is true.
Yeah, that's never wavered. Okay, so we've got 3 questions. They are of a variety of different subjects, which I did on purpose. And by the way, I emailed out recently asking for people to submit questions for Dear Krachel since we'd been on hiatus for so long. And I got a lot of responses. So thank you. And I could not obviously put all of them in one episode. So if you submitted a question and you want to get an answer, it may pop up in next month's episode or even down the road, just because I got so many that I couldn't pick them all. So thank you for those of you who submitted. And again, you can always submit a question to Dear Krachel. You can there's always a link in the show notes to the form, or you can just email us at contact@clarityonfire.com. Just make the subject line Dear Krachel, and I'll know that's what it's for. And then listen on the first Friday of the month and see if your question got picked. Okay.
All right. Question 1. Dear Krachel, I've been rereading Outrageous Openness, and while I'm enjoying the reread, I'm having trouble with one of the concepts, the idea of divine will, aka letting someone else's will dictate what happens. This is in a lot of the OO stories, and I find even reading about it makes me feel anxious. Letting divine will take over is really scary for me. what if it's divine will that I lose my job, my home, get sick, or my relationship ends? That is from Sabrina.
So for those of you who are like, what the heck is outrageous openness? This is a very short little collection of essays by a woman named Tosha Silver. And Kristen and I did a book club episode about it years and years ago, like literally in 2018. You'd have to scroll back way back to the beginning of the podcast feed.
Or you could go to our website, to the podcast tab, and you could search for outrageous openness, because you'll find the...
I can make a... What are you doing?
Sorry, I have dog hair all over my legs.
You're like rubbing your legs.
Yeah, so
Do you think they can hear that on the podcast?
Maybe. I'm sorry if you can hear me picking and rubbing dog hair off my legs. It's distracting. It's my life now.
It's distracting me. And I'm not editing this out. Okay. So anyway, Outrageous Openness is this little collection of essays by Tosha Silver, and I will link to it in the show notes as well, the episode we did about it. So the subtitle of the book is Letting the Divine Take the Lead. And so by divine, she literally just means your conception of a higher power. Could be God, could be the universe, doesn't really matter what you call it. And I love this book because it's such a fun, accessible, easy, low pressure way to engage with something bigger than yourself and to step out of the way, maybe stop acting like you're the center of the universe. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I mean that in the sense that a lot of us feel that we are incredibly responsible for literally every single thing that happens in our lives. And we act as if there's no help, there's no guidance. And a lot of us do have a belief that like something exists that's bigger than us. And whether we call it God or the universe, it literally doesn't matter what we call it. If you believe that something like that might exist, or that you're open to the idea that something like that might exist and might be there to help you or to guide you, and you want guidance, this is such a good book because it helps you get into the mindset of how to allow that to happen. And a lot of Outrageous Openness is about surrendering. It's about letting go of control and like surrendering to the idea that the universe might know better for you than you do, what's in your best interest, and like letting yourself be guided rather than forcing your will upon life. Because don't we all know that like sometimes our idea of what we need or what's best is not actually what we need or what's best?
But that's kind of what this question is getting to.
Exactly.
That's what was so interesting to me is it almost feels in this question like like Sabrina's concept of divine will is like the divine can't fully be trusted. Like, well, what if it wants something for me that I don't want for me? As in, it makes me go back to that question. Was it Einstein or who was it who posed the question? The most important decision you will make is whether you believe you live in a hostile universe or a benevolent universe.
I think it was Einstein.
I hope I'm not misquoting, but I feel like that's kind of the conundrum here is, do you trust that divine will in whatever form that takes for you?
What's best for you.
Genuinely, because if I was in Sabrina's shoes and understandably worried, well, what if that means I'm going to lose my job? Or what if that means I'm going to lose my home? Or I'm going to lose my relationship? Or I'm going to lose something that feels really important to me right now? In the broader context of the divine, why would the divine want that for you if that was the best thing for you? If divine will is that you lose your job, the divine will is opening something up that's better.
Right.
That's what we mean when we say something knows more than you. In our limited human view, we don't know what all the possibilities are.
Right.
We don't know if this is the best we could hope for, or if there's something so much better around the corner that we can't see yet. But God or the universe or whatever, however you want to describe that sense of the divine, has that whole omnipotent view. So if you lost your job in place of a million times better job, would you then be willing to lose your job?
Right.
That might be worth it.
You might, but you're not going to know that that's what's happening, which is why we call it developing faith or developing trust.
But if you don't have that trust, then you want to grip on to what you have because you're afraid maybe there isn't anything better. So it's really a faith question. It's really a trust question. Can I trust that this divine power genuinely wants what's best for me and maybe even wants more for me than I can conceptualize right now. Can I trust that?
So,
or is it just chaotic?
My take on this, it doesn't contradict what you said in any way. It's just a different lens, or I don't know, flavor on this, is that I think a lot of anxiety comes from resisting things. Like, I am resisting the idea of losing my job. I am resisting the idea of losing my relationship. It fills me with dread. It fills me with fear, understandably. And waiting for the other shoe to drop, the tension that creates in the mind and body is a lot. It takes up a lot of time and energy and space in our brain and in our body. My take is accept that bad things are going to happen to you. Because they are. Because if you live a long enough life, ultimately, is it bad? Maybe not. But you're inevitably in the like human lived experience of the thing happening, you're going to be like, this sucks and this is bad. And you're going to label it as such. And that's okay. Like, if you are in the midst of getting fired from your job, you're not going to be like, most of the time, you're not going to be like, this is great.
This is opening up so many great possibilities for me. That day that you get fired,
you might be like, this is terrible. Yes. Or the day that your boyfriend dumps you out of nowhere, you're going to be like, this is terrible. And that's allowed, right? And to, like, I think try to prevent that from happening is what's creating all of the anxiety. And then trying to resist those things from happening creates so much fear. And like, you have to like almost like put up walls and push against this happening, when it's like, can we just embrace that if you live long enough, shit's going to go down? Like, you're gonna get laid off, or you're gonna lose a relationship, or you might get some gnarly illness, or you might lose a parent earlier than you expected to, and like, I could go on and on and on, right? Like, and a lot of us are raising our hands and saying, I have lived through something like that before. Like, I didn't want my house to flood, but it flooded. Like, I had to live through that. That was terrible. Like, I mean, we've all lived through traumas and things we didn't want to have to endure. So, like, to accept the fact that I am going to be expected at times in my life to do hard things and to live through things that I never would have wanted or chosen for myself, that is also part of the practice of outrageous openness, is accepting that it's not that I can avoid these things. It's not that if I have a good enough relationship with the universe, I can avoid quote unquote bad things from ever happening to me. It's if I have a good enough relationship with the universe and myself, if I trust myself and believe in my own resilience, and I believe that I am being guided to something better at all times, then I can endure and weather hard things, and I can recover from them faster, and I can move on, and I can become a better version of myself on the other side of it. That's what we're having faith and trust in.
Exactly. And it is a combination of not if bad things happen, when bad things happen.
Yeah.
That's the human experience. There isn't a human experience where everything is just positive and it just gets better and better and better, and there's never hardship.
And then you die at like 102.
Nope, that's not the human experience. There will be hard, challenging things that happen.
There will be ups and there will be downs.
But the thing we need to have faith in is both that you will be taken care of when the bad things happen from a more divine perspective, but also that you are resilient enough to take care of yourself. So between you and God or the universe, you guys will figure it out when that inevitably happens.
Yeah.
And you will make the best of it. And usually, if you talk to anyone who's been through a really horrible experience, they'll tell you they thought it was never going to get better. And then on the other side of it, they usually will say, not that they're grateful that it happened. I'm not saying that, but life is a lot better on the other side. And it's usually because of that contrast of knowing how hard it can get, that when things feel a lot better, you have so much more gratitude. So even if you're not like, thank God I lost my job because the perfect job came. That's not always how it goes. Sometimes it's, thank God I lost my job and I wish I hadn't. That was really, really hard. But you know what? I figured it out. I took care of myself. And I'm a little bit less afraid of it happening again because I know I won't become homeless.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes that's the thing that you can look for on the other side. And even that is a win, if you ask me. That is a sign of faith in myself that things will turn around when they go down.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go down, but then they'll come back up, because they always have and they always will.
I want to add in one more layer to this, which is that, like, because I can hear some people like arguing with me, and I'm like, that's fine, go ahead, because I have a counter, because I always do. They're like, well, what if it's divine will that I got hit by a bus tomorrow? It's like, I'm not coming back from that, like, I'm dead tomorrow. Okay. Because people do die young sometimes. Sometimes accidents and tragedies do happen. Again, like, I'm not here to pretend that stuff doesn't happen. And what I've had to make peace with, as someone who was very anxious about the idea of death and like being agnostic for a lot of my life, is like, okay, I don't want that to happen tomorrow. But if it did, I have come to a point where I have enough of a relationship with the universe and enough experiences and crazy synchronicities and weird shit that's happened that I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that's not whatever happens next. I don't think I'm just like dead and that's it. I have a feeling that I'm going to transition to a different plane of existence. And you know what? I'll probably be happy there. So like, even if the worst, quote unquote, should happen, I feel like I'll recover from it on a soul level, on an existence level. And I'll be like, oh God, man, that was a wild ride on Earth. Whew, that was a fun game. Guess I woke up into my like true reality. It's like, who's to say that this might actually feel like the dream,
I
like when
feel like that is ultimately how it's
like what's
feel,
happening here is actually the dream. You know what I mean? And our avatars are just sleeping somewhere. Know what I mean?
We're in the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. So like that. So I don't know.
I don't have to get to that point yet.
You don't?
But that is as far as you can take it. And
exactly.
I'm in the same boat. It's like, no, I don't want that to happen. I'm having a good time down here. For the most part on Earth, like, yeah, things can be hard sometimes, but I'm having a good time and I want it to keep going. But if that's not divine will, I accept that. But I'm still going to look both ways when I cross the street. I'm
not invite the bus to hit me.
Exactly. But so that's the level you can take it. But if that feels really far away right now, what you maybe can at least do is look back and say, there have been times in my life where things did not go my way. And was I okay?
Did I survive it? Did I become a more wise?
Can I look back and maybe even find a tiny, tiny bit of gratitude for at least who it made me become today?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm sure there's wisdom you gleaned from it.
If you can look back and say, I made it through the hard times and maybe even grew or benefited, or maybe even something better came along, then that can help you have more trust that the next time something doesn't go your way, you're going to be taken care of in one way or another. And if that's as far as you can get today, that's great. That's progress.
Okay,
so
Sabrina.
We went right into like, what happens when you die? No. We're gonna pull it back a little bit from there.
Are we though? Who knows?
Who knows? But the next question is a totally different subject.
All right. So, hi, Krachel. I know I have a mental block when it comes to dating. I've technically been single my whole 33, almost 34 years of life. There have been men, but nothing that lasted or turned serious. I've done a ton of work on myself and have come really far. I know I want a healthy relationship and marriage one day, but can't seem to get past this block or anxiety or whatever it is that will let me date. I can't tell if it's because I find online dating so unnatural and it's not for me, or if it's something else. Wondering if you have any advice on working through mental blocks. Thanks, Erin.
Okay,
yes,
Erin. Yes.
Boy, do I.
Yes. First. Okay. I think what's going on here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because, to tune into yourself and see if this resonates. But my hunch is that your resistance may or may not be to online dating. I don't know how you feel about the apps or if that's the right way for you to date or whatever. I feel like the anxiety and the resistance is largely coming from the fact that dating in and of itself is one of the most vulnerable, uncomfortable, uncertain experiences that you can go through.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to get really clear on the fact that you want partnership, you want marriage, and that is an experience you want to have in your life. And that's fantastic. If you're clear on that, that's not even everybody knows that with that level of clarity what they want. So if you know that that's what you want, that's great. And then there's this whole the challenge is whoever that future person is probably today a stranger. So there's no such thing as going from stranger to husband in a day, overnight.
You shouldn't.
I mean, you could ask for an arranged marriage, but you'd still have to go through a really hard transition of getting to know this new man who's technically
he would
your
still
spouse.
be a stranger.
Still be a stranger. So that in between phase is ripe for anxiety. So to go from stranger on a dating app or stranger at the gym or wherever to I need to figure out, is this the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with? I think I've been through this. Rachel is very recently going through this
actively
and did a whole update in a few episodes ago on how vulnerable and intense that experience
and anxiety inducing it is.
So no wonder that feels like something you wish you could avoid.
Yeah.
But if you truly want marriage and long-term partnership, there's no avoiding it. You have to go through that uncomfortable phase of, I don't know who this person is, and I have to get to know them while also figuring out, is this my lifelong partner?
Yeah.
So if you have resistance to that, that would be normal.
But the resistance might not be a reason to avoid it.
Exactly. If the ultimate goal is something you truly want.
When we fantasize about being in a relationship or being married, we never fantasize about the part where they're a stranger.
Never. No,
never.
We fantasize about the part of
where you already know them really well.
We're laughing, making dinner together in the kitchen. We're going on trips together with our future kids. And you imagine all of that really comfy, cozied up on the couch, watching a movie together part. You don't imagine the third date when you're like, well, are they going to call me again? Am I ever going to see them? I mean, you're not thinking about that part.
You're definitely not fantasizing about that part. So I think Erin, we're guessing, but I feel like we're educatedly, that's not a word, guessing right now. And I just have a feeling that if you're someone who knows you want partnership, relationship, marriage, and you have all this resistance to dating, the part that you're resisting is having to date, is the verb and everything that dating entails, which is talking to strangers. I hate it. I absolutely understand. It's terrible. I'm not going to come on here and be like advocating for or against you doing the dating apps. If you haven't listened to my normal person episode from 2 weeks ago with Mary, I would go back and listen to that, because toward the end of our conversation, we talk about our updated thoughts about dating apps. And I share about, at least for 20, 25 minutes, we talk about dating, and I talk about why I'm actually more of an advocate for the apps now. Not for everyone, but definitely than I was before. And so if you haven't listened to that, Mary, I highly suggest, well, it was with Mary, Erin, go back and listen to that. So I can't say for sure whether or not you should do that or not. That's not my job. It's not my place to tell you what to do on that. But I do know that if you want to go on the journey of ending up married, then you have to backpedal to the point where someone's a stranger, and you might have to meet more than one stranger in order to determine if they're marriageable. It's just not super statistically. If we're just doing the math, what I always wanted to happen was to just meet one person and then have to go through all of that just one time. Now, did that...
And to know intuitively on some level, really, really, really early on, that was going to be right.
Right.
And then just kind of go through the motions. That would have been ideal.
Sure, that's not what has happened to me.
And that's not what happens to most people. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I wouldn't count on that.
Absolutely not. To count on that is to shoot yourself in the foot, because what you'll do if you're counting on that is you'll make someone who's not it in your mind, so that you think you don't have to go through it over again.
Or you'll assume nobody is it because you've never had that moment from first conversation.
Right.
And so you're like, well, then they must not be it. And then you'll shut everybody out. So one of the two is you'll force yourself to not get what you want if you're committed to it happening one particular way.
Yeah.
Because anything that anybody has ever wanted, I guarantee you they would go back and say, it did not happen the way I thought it was going to happen.
No. So part of dating and why it's exhausting and why people resist it. And again, you don't have to do it. You can just hope that the universe delivers you someone randomly, like at the grocery store, and then that person's your person. But like, even then, they're still a stranger. And even then, you shouldn't be assuming the first day you meet them that this is your husband. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to do it in a healthy way, you have to treat them like a stranger who you're just getting to know, and you don't know if they're going to talk to you tomorrow. Like, unfortunately, you're going to have to go through that at least once, very likely more than once. Because a lot of the time, they are just going to be a stranger who you went out on a few dates with, and ultimately it wasn't compatible, and you moved on.
And just keep in mind, if you're like, that's it. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're hitting it completely off the mark here. I feel like we're probably not, because I know how uncomfortable this is personally, and just understanding the human mind. Like, this is one of the most uncomfortable things you can put yourself through. So if that is feeling like, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, that's what I'm resisting, just know you are not the only one. This is the most vulnerable human experience, because it's where you're essentially putting yourself out there and saying, hi, this is me. Do you like me?
No, you don't.
And
great.
You're doing the same to them. They're feeling the same way. Everyone's feeling the same way. So it's not a reason to not do it, because that's just the nature of vulnerability. But vulnerability is not I think this is the thing. Vulnerability is not resistance. Now, you might have resistance to feeling vulnerable, but if you're like, I feel resistant to this,
are you feeling resistant, or are you feeling vulnerable?
Kind of uncomfortable and vulnerable, and that might just be exactly
what you're supposed to be feeling.
Exactly normal.
Yeah.
You just kind of do it anyway and feel the feelings.
I agree with that. And I believe that was my problem for many years, and why I personally resisted dating up until about 3 years ago. And it's because I found it so almost painfully vulnerable that I couldn't do it, and it just felt wrong. But it wasn't wrong. It was just painfully vulnerable, and I had to get over that. And I had to like really work to overcome that. And it was incredibly difficult. And anxiety inducing. And I had to do a lot of exposure therapy to dating very slowly, right? Like, I was on the apps, but I like never matched with anyone. I was just like kind of watching from the sidelines for a long time. And then eventually I matched with someone, and I got like way too into it way too quickly. And then that turned out to be wrong. And then that was really painful, but then I overcame that. And then I was willing to date some more after a break. And then I dated some more. And then I kind of did the same thing again, where I got excited about someone too soon. And then he ended up ghosting. Well, not ghosting, but he ended up, being like, this isn't for me. And then I ended up upset again. And then I took a break again. And then I came back and I did more dating. And then I met a boyfriend. So it's like, it took 2.5 years of me dating, like, and learning a ton of lessons, and being willing over and over and over and over again to expose myself to disappointment and to things that made me really uncomfortable and really anxious. And thankfully it paid off. But like, I'm like, if you want something that badly, like, there is typically a toll you're going to have to pay in order to get it. And like, exposing yourself to heartache, to disappointment, to, people seeing ugly sides of you, like, all of that is like the toll that you pay in order to have like true intimacy and partnership, and you can't avoid it. So
you're not doing anything wrong by feeling uncomfortable. You're just being a normal human, and discomfort doesn't mean it's wrong. Discomfort might actually mean
you're doing it right.
And you're exactly where you need to be.
You're growing.
Yeah.
Often discomfort just means you're growing, and you need to grow if you want to get where you want to go. So, Erin, I don't know how closely we hit the target on your question.
I'd love to hear back from Erin.
But I would really love an update from you, Erin, and to see if this was at all relevant or resonated with you at all. Okay. That was a lot. So we'll just leave
Erin
we'll leave Erin to process, and all of you to process that.
Okay. Our third and final question. Dear Krachel, I like my job. It's not my dream job, but it's working for now, while I've had a lot of upheaval in my personal life, and I've been trying to game plan what my dream job would look like. I wasn't planning on looking for a new job, but we've had several rounds of layoffs recently, and our current outlook isn't looking super optimistic. My financial situation is already challenging, so being laid off could make things even worse. But I don't want to feel like I have the clarity but I don't feel like I have the clarity I would like on what a dream job would look like. I've been toying with switching up things in a pretty major way. If I do bail on this job, should I look for more of a bridge job or try to figure out what my dream job would be ASAP? That is from To Bail or Not to Bail.
Okay, I actually have a pretty clear-cut answer to this question. I don't always. But in this situation, I feel like the wise move is typically don't aim for a dream job.
I actually very much agree with that.
And here's the reasoning. Okay, if you're already in a precarious financial situation and getting laid off would put you in a far worse one, you don't really have the luxury of waiting around for a dream job. You kind of have to be responsible and take care of yourself and find something that will do for now.
Especially if you're not even clear on what that dream job would be. So it's not even like you could start taking really active steps to look for that or make that happen because it's still a little bit fuzzy right now. My fear is that if you tried to go all in on this uncertain dream job right now, you would put a ton of pressure on yourself to figure it out before maybe all the pieces have revealed themselves to you. And you would maybe end up choosing something more out of desperation than out of true alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you get yourself into a job that feels stable, which may be what this job used to feel like. Because it sounds like you weren't actually looking for another job and you didn't want to have to look for another job until there were all these rounds of layoffs. And then this stable job started to feel a bit more unstable. So getting yourself back into a more stable feeling position buys you both time to really explore what a dream job would look like for you, and also buys you peace of mind to do it without this crazy time pressure or feeling of desperation of I've got to figure it out right now, which is not when the best decisions are made.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the question is to bail or not to bail, because it sounds like, they're afraid of getting laid off. But ultimately, to bail or not to bail makes it sound like, should I just choose to go?
I know, it's almost like, should I leave before they kick me out?
Right. Right.
Like, should I jump out of the sinking ship? I don't know
if you do that, just know for sure you're not going to be looking for a dream job. For sure. You're not going to be looking for a dream job. If you don't have, if you're in a challenging financial situation already, you're just going to be looking for any old job. Like, again, I've said this before, I'm going to repeat it. This is a Maslow's hierarchy of needs situation where if your concern has to be on the base of the pyramid, which is survival, like making money, making sure that your basic needs, your housing, your food, and all of that is taken care of, you do not have the bandwidth to focus on self-actualization, which is the top of the pyramid. That's like the dream job stuff. So, and that's normal. Like, you just can't really have a split focus like that because mentally and emotionally, physically, energetically, you can't be in survival mode and be in like creative fulfilled mode at the same time. One is like stress and being in fight or flight, and the other is being relaxed and at peace and calm. And like, you can't really be in both of those at the same time. So if you quit your job or if you bail before you get laid off, just know you're going to be choosing to put yourself in that stressed out place, which is fine. You can do that. But what you're choosing from that place is not going to be self-actualization. It's going to be just more survival. And that might be okay because maybe a bridge job is better than, what you've got going. That's fine. But like, if you don't get laid off, okay, and you're able to maybe start treating your current job like it's a bridge job, which I would recommend is mentally start thinking of your current job like a bridge job, then you can focus on self-actualization because you've got your basic needs met.
It's true. I think right now it sounds like you're at this place of uncertainty and feeling like you're unstable. You may or may not be. So there's no guarantee you're going to get laid off.
Right.
But when you're not sure if you will or not, that turns your current situation into one that feels unstable, kind of chaotic, very stressful.
Hard to think long term when you're just worried about what's going to happen next month.
Yeah. So the next rung up is a little bit more peace of mind, a little bit more stability.
Yeah.
And if you can get that in this job, if you can talk to someone and say, hey, I kind of need to know, is my department at risk?
Right.
Or is my team or is my role at risk? Who will be honest with you? And they may or may not be. And if you find out you're probably fine, then yeah, let's treat this job like your bridge job. It sounds like it's fine. It's perfectly, you weren't even planning on leaving right away until these layoffs. So you could make this work for a little while longer and have this buy you time. If you can't get to that place of more peace of mind and more stability here, then yeah, you might need to go someplace else. You might need to go find a bridge job that brings you one rung up on that peace of mind stability ladder, because that gets you closer to that open-mindedness, that curious place, that exploratory place that gets you higher into the self-actualization piece. So you can't just jump from the bottom of the pyramid all the way to the top. You got to stair step up. So right now, that next stair step is, how do I get a little bit more stability and peace of mind?
Stability is required for self-actualization.
Yes.
You cannot be fearing, like, when am I going to be able to pay my rent next month, and pursuing deep self-actualization and personal fulfillment and like mind-blowing expansion and personal evolution. Nope. Doesn't happen when your life might be falling apart.
Right. When your body is constantly in a stress state.
In a fight or flight, your nervous system is dysregulated. It doesn't really work like that.
So I know you probably didn't expect the career coaches who are all about, finding alignment in your life to say, don't worry about the dream job right now. But
there's a time and a place, and now is not it.
Yeah. And you don't want to set yourself up for failure and set yourself up for too much pressure by saying, I got to figure this out right now. And then realize you just made a choice because you had a deadline imposed on yourself of when you had to make a little bit more money.
Dream jobs don't happen under the gun.
They don't. You have to give them space to breathe and reveal themselves to you.
Dreams, period, don't come true because you held a gun to the universe's head.
No. Go back to our first question.
It's not going to care. First of all, it's going to probably be like, well, it's going to take longer. That'll teach you.
Right. Right. So if you decide, I just need to find something more stable right now, you're not doing it wrong. I think you're actually doing it exactly right. And you're giving your nervous system what it needs to get to a place of stability so that it can start to be more receptive to what that dream job might look like. And I hope that feels like a relief. Sometimes the pressure of, I got to figure it all out right now and make all these moves and change up everything in a big way right now while I'm also worrying about a layoff is so much pressure that I hope it's a relief to say, I don't have to worry about all of that right now. Just take one step to a little bit more peace of mind. That's it. That's all you got to focus on right now. And it's not the end point. So there will come a time and place when you can explore what do you really want next. You can look forward to that, but you don't have to force it right now. Please don't, actually.
I think it's so interesting that we started with like our first question, Sabrina, about divine will and like, what if I get laid off? And what if my relationship ends? And it's just, these other questions are sort of an example of like, well, divine will might be that you have to date in order to get what you want. Divine will might be that you stick it out at a job you don't like for a while or you get laid off and then you deal with that. Like, but it's not the end. Like being in that difficult place is not the end all be all. It's not where you're going to land.
No,
it's just a step along the way to getting where you want to go, to the relationship that you want, to the dream job that you want, to the self-actualization that you want.
Not always smooth. Sometimes it's a little bit of a rocky path to get there, but you'll get there. And you're going to build a lot of resourcefulness and self-trust along the way.
And isn't that the reward?
Womp womp. Not the sexiest of rewards, but
I came to Earth and incarnated in this body, and this stupid self. What did you? Resourcefulness was all I got.
Oh man!
And I didn't even get a novelty T-shirt to go with it.
We should make some.
Oh, that's the merch
T-shirt. Nobody would know what the hell you're wearing.
I have some friends who would rock that, and they would totally get it.
I love it.
Okay, so stupid self-trust and resourcefulness was all I got. Okay.
Well, as always, we want to know what you thought, whether you are one of our question askers.
I really wish you'd come up with a better phrase for that. Questioners, listeners who ask the question.
I think questioners is good because it has, I feel like there's like an existential vibe to it that I think is appropriate.
Okay, great. If you're a questioner
or a listener who just resonated with our questioners, please let us know. And if this inspired a question that you want to ask us, like we said at the beginning, you can always fill out a form. There's going to be in the show notes, there's a link, or you can just email us at contact@clarityonfire.com with the subject line Dear Krachel.
Or you can email us an update if you're someone who's asked us a question or
we love an update.
Previously asked a question. Send an update and let us know which one you were so that I can maybe reference back to your episode. So, okay, well, we shall return next week for yet another interview with a normal person. I haven't done this interview yet, so I'm not going to tell you what it's about because honestly, who knows? But I think you're really going to like her.
Divine will give you just the right conversation.
Exactly. I'm going to let Divine Will just decide for you how that goes and me. Okay.
We'll find out next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.